Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody out there in podcast land. You are in tune to another episode of Intrinsic Motivation from a Homie's Perspective. This is Hamza, and shout out to David that couldn't make it tonight. And today, I'm really excited for our guests, and I'm really excited for the guys. I'm really going to look out for my brethren today because fortunately or unfortunately, we are no longer in our 20s, and for Halloween parties, we can no longer get by just putting vodka in high-C orange juice. I don't think that the ladies that are in our lives really appreciate that, and they like it if we took more time and attention to this holiday as it is the jump-off for the holiday season. And luckily, I have a guest who has a winery, and she is going to talk about all of the wonderful treats, and you will be able to brag and be the envy of everyone at the party when you know about the spooky gifts and spooky-inspired type drinks that we create for the upcoming holiday season, most notably Halloween. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Susie Selby to the podcast. Welcome, Susie.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be at the podcast. I love Halloween, but I also love cocktails. So it's a perfect combination.
Very nice. Very nice. And since you do, I guess to start right off, do you roll your eyes like a lot of other women when guys usually, we kind of half-ass it, and we may just put vodka in something orange and call it a day?
You know what? I think all women are fine with that, as long as the guy is cool and funny and you're having a good time. However, when you're hosting a party and you're creating an atmosphere, it's always fun to have something that is a little bit thematic, and there are easy ways to make it a fun adult party. And I also find, I'm sure you're finding, especially, as we get older and older and some of our kids are getting older, there's a lot more focus on having a great time with cocktails and definitely having adult-themed costume parties. Yes.
It's at the point now that I think that adults push children out of the way to get that outfit at the Halloween shop now.
Yes, that's true. I know. It's bad when they're competing with their kids, but no, that's funny. Well, and I want to start by saying I am a winemaker by trade. I'm not a professional bartender by any means, but I sure do practice a lot, and I appreciate not only the taste of a good cocktail or the atmosphere it sets, but also the aesthetics of something. And presentation can always make a difference.
I would have to agree with you on that. When you talk about atmosphere in the scene, it seems like it makes the adult libation taste better.
It does. And there are also safe products you can use when you're creating these drinks, like, for instance, dry ice. But anytime you're working with materials that you have not used before, you still want to be a little bit cautious and make sure that you're safe in your handling of things.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, because, once upon, and excuse my barbarian mindset here when I talk about vodka and just, high C, right? Maybe that was a long time ago and it was acceptable, but today you have people that have allergies or specialties, and maybe that one or two drinks that used to be a fan favorite, I mean, you have so many different palates to appease now. So what's the first step let's start with something basic and simple, and then we can kind of get fancy with it.
Okay. Let's start with, here's something easy. Let's just start with a Bloody Mary.
Okay.
Let's be basic here. Now, I think with every cocktail you ever offer at a party, it is very important to give a non-alcoholic option. And I always start there with the basics. So even if it's even if it's something in tonic with lime, it makes people who don't drink feel better if they have the beautiful cocktail, but it just doesn't have alcohol in it. Mm-hmm. And so I think when you're setting up your party, it's always nice to have that in mind, because you want your guests to feel comfortable. And let's face it, we're responsible drinkers. We're not enjoying our cocktails because we plan on being overly crazy at the Halloween party. It's just a fun addition, and taken in moderation, it's a nice thing to have, especially if it's going to be aesthetically fun. So I always assume that people can have it with alcohol or without alcohol, and then I sort of build from there, because it's nice to give options of types of alcohol as well.
Well, you confused me just a little bit, because I had the understanding that we were all Frank the Tank from old school, and we were going streaking in the yard afterwards.
Maybe I'm being too conservative. I mean, I do make alcohol for a living. Maybe I'm trying to be too polite here.
We're going streaking!
No, maybe I should just get right to it. It's funny. I mean, I live in this little town of Healdsburg, and I was getting ready for this podcast, and I was actually in my little town, in my grocery store, in the alcohol department, grabbing all sorts of fun things, because of course you have to do research to get ready for something this important. And my friend, I kept running into people. They're like, "Oh, so when are we going to be at your house? Cocktails now? When are we coming over?" So I'm a little bit of a known entertainer in town, I admit. So yes, I'm being polite. I still think it's nice to have a non-alcoholic option. But so, would you like to move forward to some drink choices?
Before we get into it, and of course I do, I just want to make one other remark about the non-alcoholic option, because I think that is probably more prevalent the older you get, and your body can't handle what it used to. And it made me also think of, and now I did this a long time ago, so when I was in undergrad, I was a vegetarian. And then when you're older, people make it a point, like you could say, well, did you watch the news today? But whatever the topic is, they bring up that they're a vegetarian. So does that happen when someone says, well, you know what, I don't drink alcohol anymore, I need a non-alcoholic option?
I see that out here occasionally. Now, keep in mind, I am in the land of I'm in wine country. So I'm in it. Okay. My town only has 10,000 people in it, and we're surrounded by vineyards, and there's just a very, very large percentage of people who actually work in the wine industry, like myself. Uh-huh. And so we probably have a disproportionately high number of people who consume alcohol, but we are also very polite in wine country about making sure that there's no stigma to not having alcohol.
Gotcha.
But don't you think that's a trend in the country right now in general?
It is, and I mean, it was just, I was excited, and I still am, about our talk, and, some of it, when you're talking about themes and atmosphere, there was a time where the scarier it was, then the greater time that you had, and we kind of started off with, well, we're going to make a non-alcoholic Bloody Mary, and, it's kind of like not celebrating, what do they call it now? Season's greetings, or everything but what we used to call it when we were little kids in December.
Oh, you mean the whole
PC era? Yeah, the whole PC era is like, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but that's what I was thinking when you talked about non-alcoholic options.
Well, I know, but I'd like to be a good hostess, and I'm sure you like to be a good host as well. So
yes.
We don't want to be something for everyone, but again, I threw that out there as a thought.
Awesome.
When you're getting your party supplies together.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So they're included. It's an inclusive party, people, right? And one thing that I really liked was Rosemary's Baby. I wanted to know what was the thought process behind it, and is that one of your favorite movies?
It's not one of my favorite movies, but when you're serving the Rosemary's Baby cocktail, I think it is really fun to set up a whole atmosphere in the room where you're throwing the party. And so I like to have the dim lights, encourage costumes, of course. It's always nice to have areas of dry ice, but my gosh, having Rosemary's Baby playing in a dim room with party music on, of course, is the way to go. That's a good party. I know. So, so yes, so that's the way to go. And you can, you can come up with all sort of creepy ideas, but you want the cocktail to taste good. So
yes,
definitely. Do you make cocktails yourself?
I do not, but I do have a very expansive palate, so I will try things. And what was interesting, because I want to know how to make, I want to go a little bit into Rosemary's Baby, how you make it, because unfortunately I just watched the Rajneesh special on Netflix. And those that don't know the Rajneesh special, it's that group in the 70s where they took over Oregon and everything was red and kind of like Rosemary's Baby. So I'm like, are we drinking Jim Jones juice, or is this a wine concoction that we're having at this party?
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, that's funny. I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. That's funny. That is funny.
So what does it entail to make? Because I think that might be my theme this year, is the Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, okay. So, certainly have the movie rolling. That's always fun. Excuse, there's a little bit of noise in the background because I'm in the lab at the winery. I apologize.
Okay.
So you take. I'm taking Kettle One vodka and adding just a little bit of Meyer lemon, simple syrup, fresh lemon juice, a rosemary sprig, and club soda. So it's a very fresh, light. I don't like things that are overly sweet. And, especially if I'm having a larger party, I like to make things that, something, not necessarily something for everyone, but still it's a really simple way to make a drink, and it's a crowd pleaser. So I encourage that. But one of the things that is fun to do is go to the dollar store or the local party store, and it's fun to get like tiny plastic spiders, and maybe you could even get like those little babies that they use in New Orleans for the cakes.
Okay.
Put some little plastic babies in there. That's sort of fun and a little creepy, don't you think?
Yes.
Wouldn't it freak you out a little bit if you had little plastic baby in your drink? So you need to spice it up. And
what if I couldn't tell that it was What if I couldn't tell that it was a fake baby, and I put out my phone to put it on Instagram that we were giving babies alcoholic beverages?
I don't think you could get away with it. The baby would be immersed in ice. It's a plastic baby. It's the plastic babies. All you have to do is go to kingcake.com in New Orleans, and you can find some plastic babies. So. Nice. Now, another favorite thing to do for cocktails that I love is if you get you can get some ice cube trays, and you can just freeze some really fun things like eyeballs. You can freeze an eyeball in ice and put one in a drink.
Nice.
That's fun. Super fun. You can also use cherries, but you don't really get the flavor of the cherry when you do that. I say you may as well go for plastic. I'm not saying that that's entirely good for your body to freeze plastic and put it in an alcoholic beverage, but, what the heck?
It's one day. It's one day. Come on.
Right. If it makes for a good party, who cares? And I rinse all my plastic babies and eyeballs off before I freeze them. I'm not a barbarian. for goodness sake.
Well, speaking of barbarian, and please don't hang up in advance because I might ask something that'll turn your nose up. So I have a question about Rosemary's Baby, and you were talking about Kettle One vodka and all the other beautiful stuff. What if you substituted vodka for gin?
Oh, I'm all for that. I'm all for that.
All right. She's cool, guys. She's cool.
No, I'm an equal opportunist spirits consumer.
Okay. So. That can end a party. I mean, that starts fights.
Now, another thing that is really easy to have at a party, and, of course, you get the whole punch bowl thing going. I love to make... Now, I call this witchy wine in a way, but I think it's really fun to make sangria. And there are a lot of ways you can make it, and you can get rid of some of that wine. Like, do you really want to open your $100 bottle of Cabernet for your Halloween party? Wouldn't you rather get rid of a present from your in-laws that you really never planned on drinking? You can throw it into a punch bowl. You can add, you can fortify it with spirits, or you can just make sure it's effervescent. But then you add that little bit of dry ice, and you've got your witch's brew sangria. And that's really good for people who want something festive, but they would rather drink wine and not booze.
Right.
So that's,
now, this is another nose turner for you. So since we're not opening the $100 cab, are we throwing in $2 Chuck?
Absolutely. If you have it, use it for sangria. It's a great use of inexpensive wines or just older wines. I swear, especially wines that you really don't know what they are and they've been around since like 2002 or something. I mean, it'll have a little bit of a vinegar-type taste. I guess I would say the older the wine, the stronger the decision to throw in something like Grand Marnier. So, I know. Well, first of all, it gets the party going a little bit.
Yes, yes, it would.
Just a little bit. But it also covers that, what we call volatile acidity taste, which is tiny bit on the vinegary side, but it's a good way to it's good utilization of wine. I would say that you're not excited about drinking. Okay,
I do want to have a quick sidebar since you did bring up Grand Marnier. So there's two schools of thought, and I want to get your opinion. Do you make French connections? And if you do, what do you put in there?
In French connections?
Yes.
I have had people do it with Grand Marnier, but I think with the French connection, I've used I've used raspberry liqueur.
That's a new one for me.
Hold on, let me think of the name of it. When was the last time you had a French connection?
Oh my God, a long time ago.
That's a fun drink. That's a fun idea. I like that.
Yeah, well,
I just haven't had one in a long time.
Me neither, and I usually, it's football season now, so when it's a little colder, because I'm in the South, so maybe like after Halloween, around Thanksgiving, and the cigars come out, then Grand Marnier, French Connection will come out. So that's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
Well, and since you are in the South, and it is still warm, and I'm excited it's football season. That's always a fun time of year. A dark and stormy is a pretty good classic for entertaining.
Oh, okay. Now that wasn't in my show notes. I do want to know more about that.
Well, a dark and stormy is just you have to have ginger beer, first of all. Okay. And it's best to have high quality ginger beer. It's sort of funny. Sometimes you can use alcohols that aren't perfect, but the the other ingredients matter more than people think. So you want to make sure that in your dark and stormies you get a good brand of ginger beer.
Okay.
But it's definitely, and it's made with dark rum and ginger beer served over ice.
Okay.
And so that's
cool.
Definitely a fun one.
Now that's also, if you're, some people have, when they entertain, it's in one major room and the rest of the house is cut off. And in others, you may have different themes. So I'm thinking if there's Rosemary's Baby type theme in one room, you may have a dark and stormy and have, the whole storm audio in the background, maybe.
Ew, that's a fun idea. I like that. Well, and you can do dark and stormies as punches as well, and you can still do the dry ice thing. Punch bowls are fun. Like, when was the last time you saw a punch bowl with the big ladle? You know it's going to be a good party.
When you say punch bowl, I think again Frank the Tank.
Punch bowl, exactly. That's funny. And you can call it, like the dark and stormy devil punch or something like that. I mean, there are a lot of plays on words. So, cool. So let's say we've got our party set up. We've got the dark and stormy room. Mm-hmm. We've got Rosemary's Baby's room. Mm-hmm. And then there's, of course, the Pina Choulada, which is basically a Pina Choulada.
Okay.
But, if you want to get... But I tend to avoid... I think blenders are not a good idea for parties.
I love to hear this position.
Well, they're loud. They sort of get in the way. They slow down your progress.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually don't go the blender route. But I do like pre-mixing something. I remember, I did have a party and served hurricanes. And I believe Saints football was involved.
You're trying to repiece it back together?
It just wasn't. Yeah. It was not a good idea. Not a good idea.
Wait a minute. You said hurricane, so I think it's affectionately known as slurricane.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Wow. So, no, I did that once, and I will never do it again. And I've certainly learned my lesson with sugar, lots of different types of alcohol. I mean, you want to actually care for your guests. It just was not. It wasn't good. There were guests littered all over town. It was absolutely tragic. But so now I do responsible entertaining.
That is so timely. That's so timely because our next guest is about gut health. No,
it's about good health.
Gut health.
Oh, gut health. Oh, that's funny. Well, I've listened to your podcast, and one of the things I really, really love, and I know your audience cares about this, it's so diverse. I mean, it's fascinatingly diverse. Yeah. And that's nice. It makes it fun. When I started going through, you never know exactly what it's going to be or how serious it's going to be. And I thought, and here's a guy who cares about good alcohol as well.
Right.
It's impressive. He cares about world peace and cocktails. There's something to be said for that. You don't see it very often.
Well, thank you. It's funny because it sounds like you need to visit one of my parties because I am one of those that doesn't have just one room, so it'll be multiple themes, and it'll happen that way. Like, what? How do you know Hamza? How do you know Hamza? You know what I mean? It's like because there's so many different worlds. When worlds collide,
exactly.
While we drink hurricanes.
Yeah, and when I do parties, I don't have the luxury of different rooms, although I will usually have something, I have one big room, like the kitchen, living room thing, but I do have an outdoor area, and I usually have something separate going outdoor and indoor. But as you know, everyone gravitates toward the food. Mm-hmm. And so I always set food up in advance, and I always like to have, unless I'm doing a sit-down party, but just for a fun Halloween party, have a lot of different food stations that are easy to replenish, especially when they don't require utensils.
Right.
Potato chips, for instance. So, but it's nice to have completely different sections and areas, but no. So I'll find something fun that will go with whatever cocktail is being served, as well. So
now,
do you have?
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I had a question about high school, or to some people college, but I was an athlete, so I'll say high school. And we learned in high school, liquor before beer, never fear, and what was it? Beer before, what was the other one? Beer before liquor. Something was, I guess I'm not eloquently explaining it.
I think it's liquor before beer, have no fear.
Yes.
Beer before liquor, couldn't be sicker.
Yes, thank you. There we go. Because we're talking about being scared, right? But we don't want people to mix their drinks, or can they in these scenarios that we talked about tonight?
Well, okay. Here's another way to go. If you can, when you have your different party rooms and your party drinks, if you really, really care about keeping your guests on even keel, then it's best to stick with white products like gin and vodka, because going brown can sometimes be a little dangerous for guests as well. So and you definitely, once I start going brown, I make sure it's the end of the evening, my friend.
Wait, you confused me again, Susie. So are you saying we need another room for Pulp Fiction?
Pulp Fiction, yes. Yes. Or, you know what? There could be a Big Lebowski room. How's that sound?
There you
Have a few Caucasians going?
I like it. We're going to take this show on the road.
Yeah, no, maybe we can just find alcohol themes. But yeah, I actually had a office manager who only drank White Russians and nothing else. It was really nice. I never had to worry about employee theft at the winery. It was handy.
Yes, nice.
But yes, we had Big Lebowski. I assume you've seen that.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love it.
Classic.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there are other movie-themed drinks.
Yeah, I am a total moviephile, or what do you call it? A movie goer. I had no audiophile. I don't know the movie version of that, but I love movies. And I'm thinking of Halloween, and I'm thinking of themes, and I'm thinking of, for adults, that as children, a lot of people hated clowns, and this year we just got a double dose. So what was it, about a month and a half ago, we had It. Yeah, well, we had It first. It first came out first, and now we had Joker. And I know, I don't think it's just Atlanta. I think I read around the country, you're not even allowed to go into the theater with clown makeup on. And what do we do if someone comes to our party in clown makeup, and what should we serve them?
What should we serve them? After you scream? Gosh. Yeah. I know, there's just I would say a colorful cocktail. You know, I did see a you could do like Jello shots and then just make them all colorful, and God forbid, buy little clown heads to stick in there.
Okay.
You know, but yes, clowns, welcome. Did you ever? What is that movie with? Oh gosh, with Ed Murray, where he's a clown who robs a bank. Anyway, it's a classic. But yeah, when people show up as clowns, it's almost like they're not being polite guests.
Right.
Because it scares everybody.
So there should be an asterisk in the invitation that goes out.
Maybe.
No.
Maybe, perhaps. Now, I was at a party and saw a cocktail called a Killer Clown. And basically it was a hodgepodge. It was like a Long Island iced tea, basically.
Okay.
But you can use like the curacao syrup to get some color in there. So there are ways to go.
Okay.
So, but have you had a lot of clowns show up at your parties?
Well, I'm thinking, people want to be really topical, of course, and I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to see it, the Joker, and I'm sure I don't want it, I want people to have a good time. We don't have to debate about whatever, but are clowns angry drunks too?
Are clowns angry drunks? Funny.
Yes. No offense to the clowns listening to the podcast today.
I know. It probably, I know this makes me just a terrible hostess, but I do have a guest house, and there's a clown that lives in the closet.
Okay.
It's a fun party trick. It really scares people. They tend to they never forget your house after that. And during Halloween, the same creepy clown, I'll usually set it on top of the counter in the guest bathroom. Mm-hmm. It's just fun to listen to people scream when they go in there. So
do you leave the? Go ahead. Because I'm just wondering if you have psychiatrists that come to your party, you leave their business card, because these are unresolved childhood issues.
Well, we scare each other at the winery all the time with this scary clown. It's just this ongoing. I'll put it in the dump truck. The guys are getting ready to take pumice to the dump, and they scream when they get in the truck. So it's just another element of the clown year we're having, and the potential fun you can have with a creepy clown.
Yes.
Yes. So, I'm sure you have clowns around, don't you?
I do. And the other thing that it was kind of last year and the year before was The Purge. So I would throw that in there as well, because in those movies or TV show, they're kind of in clown makeup in some instances. And I'm trying to look at, because what's interesting, and you let me know about this also, Susie, so when someone comes to your party, let's say they are like Ward Cleaver, but if they go to too many different themed rooms, they turn into clowns. So you're like,
oh, yeah, exactly.
How do we handle that this holiday season?
Yeah, there's always that. Yeah, I gotcha. I hear you. Well, that's sort of a big, that could be part of the entertainment, of course.
Okay.
It's better to laugh with people and not at people, of course. But yeah, sometimes people can get a little crazy at parties. Hey, I've got another fun party trick that tends to go over really well. So you go get a fake mouse or a fake, giant spider or a fake lizard. It's always fun to put those in the food bowls, the food dishes while people are eating. I love doing that. It's fun. I highly recommend it.
Now I'm just
it's
thinking,
fun to hear people screaming at parties.
It is. I'm just thinking of some that are more prudish than others. I never.
Well, the worst thing that happens is they never come back to your house for a party.
Right. But we have to do business with these people. I'm thinking long range here, Susie.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point. I think everyone eventually has a good sense of humor, but it's fun having a snake, a little snake head sticking out of the couch.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
So,
and I'm going to blame you, by the way. So I'm going to say Susie told us about this. I'm innocent here. Disclaimer.
I know. But so that's another fun way to go. Now, do you know what you were going to dress up like for this Halloween?
I'm a guy, so it may be like October 31st at noon when I figure it out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You could be like just the A in the Falcons or something.
Exactly.
That's an easy way to go. Oh, I'm the A.
Exactly.
Take your shirt off.
Exactly.
Take your shirt off, put the big A on your chest. You're ready to go.
I don't know why he keeps coming in, but that's the whole Frank the Tank theme again.
I know. Well, and I'm sure clown will be a very popular way to go this year. There are going to be a lot of jokers out there.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Have they really outlawed it, or are you making that up?
No, I totally. You can, you don't believe everything you read online, but there's this big push to you're getting your bags checked. If you're wearing clown makeup, they've kicked people out because certain themes, and if you're clapping too loudly, it's inappropriate because it's encouraging this type of subculture behavior. And it's really a lot of it's interesting to have this conversation right now, Susie, because we're on a line, and it's a whole probably another podcast. But you have this whole PC culture, and you have those that subterfuge to get around it, and so everyone's kind of policing each other. And that's why I was excited about speaking with you, because Halloween is supposed to let your hair down and those type of things, and sometimes it's ruined because it is too PC. And what will people say? What will people think if we have this Pina Choulada at our house today?
or frozen clown drinks and things.
Yeah.
No, I understand, and I'm probably a little bit isolated because again I am in a very small, cool town, but small. Mm-hmm. And where alcohol is encouraged because it's our life, only because it's our livelihood.
Only.
So
that's the greater good. The greater good.
Exactly. And we do it for our people. We do it for the people. We care about making great wine and winemaking, and wine, wine's a very sophisticated, well accepted beverage. And so I think I can speak for a large group of winemakers. We just love to make cocktails. It's fun. It's a nice change. So I don't know if
you've heard this yet out on the West Coast, but and it's not really legal here yet either. And I might be misspeaking, but I don't care. I'm going to say it anyway. So they are developing this chewing device, like a gum, that absorbs alcohol or absorbs the breathalyzer, or it would throw the breathalyzer off. And our first thought, and I'm in a business meeting today, we're talking about this with some serial entrepreneurs, and we're like, it only encourages people to drink more. And I'm sure in your small town, an Uber ride is less than $50, but here in Atlanta, going down the street in Uber or Lyft is $50. And I guess that's the other part we do have to make note of. What do you do if they're not a clown, but they've had too much to drink, and you want to make sure that your guests get home safely?
Oh, I as far as I'm concerned, I believe very strongly in either drinking or either driving. And I tell my guests when they come to my party, I tell people everywhere, either drink or drive. I think it's not fair to society for you to make that judgment on your own. It's just not fair. It's a very selfish decision. And so a gum, anything that could potentially throw a machine off, that's just uncool. Let's face it. So I'm firm about it. And if somebody has too much to drink at my party, they are not driving. But I really think that's the culture these days. And thank goodness for the whole Uber movement, because it really, like the drunk driving rate, for instance, in Los Angeles dropped like 70%, something just crazy.
Yes.
Yes, I encourage having fun with alcohol, and I think it can be, a fabulous part of a meal, or it can be a really, really fun part of a party. But you do not put other people at risk under any circumstance. I'm certain you agree with that.
Wholeheartedly. And do you guys have Safe Ride out there?
Do we have what out here?
Safe Ride?
I don't think we do have Safe Ride, but I'm familiar with it.
Okay.
So
for those that listening, and we're not being sponsored by them in this podcast, but shout out to Safe Ride. So for those that live in the major cities and you take Uber, you're going to pay twice because you got to pay to get your car the next day. And in cities like Atlanta, it's going to get towed. So if you use the Safe Ride app, they'll actually come and they'll tow your car too. So, you don't have these abandoned cars throughout the city. So if you went out with great intentions and then later in the evening you're turning into that clown, you don't want to turn into that clown person. You might want to look at downloading Google Play or the iPhone store and getting Safe Ride if you're not using Uber or Lyft.
Well, that's a great idea. And let's face it, money is no object. I mean, truly, no matter what you have to spend, when you make that decision to drink, then you need to figure out a way to make it responsible, always. Of course, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to give a shout-out to all of my attorney friends because, as they politely say it, you rather pay $90 for towing or Uber, or would you want to pay $15,000 to go through the court system? So you do the math.
Yeah. So what we've created in my wine country drinking town is now these are when I say safe, I mean we're not talking long driving distances, but it's a great way for the 17 and 18, 17 through 21-year-olds to make money driving everyone around. And so we've sort of set up a neighborhood network in our town. And so we know whose kids are back from college for the summer or which kids really want to make extra money. And, it's nice to pay a kid who wants some money and know you're not drinking and driving. So any sort of network like that. And I also set up driving situations prior to throwing a party. And I like to let people know what their options are. So it's just a good thing to do, I think.
Absolutely.
Have you ever been to wine country?
The closest I've been was Temecula. And I went there I was in San Diego for a conference, and they had a brief, sparse little winery there, but I have not. And is that an invitation?
Yes, it is. It absolutely is an invitation. And
awesome.
I, take this seriously. I will throw a party if you come out here. We'll have a theme inside and a theme outside. There's lots to do where I am, and it's a lot of fun. And we have a lot of appreciation for fine wine and fine food in particular.
People have been asking us, and thank you so much, Susie. We've been asked And the farthest we were going to go was to Peru for ayahuasca retreat. And I'm thinking that going to wine country might be the safe bet for like baby steps. Let's do wine country before we have an all-out ayahuasca fest in Peru.
That's true. Well, it's a very, very special place. So I encourage you to try it. And the name of my town is called Healdsburg, and it's in beautiful Sonoma County.
Okay.
So for anybody who is, if just go online and see how great it is. And the best part is that the place where we would have the party is downtown Healdsburg. So it's walking distance to everything. So it's a nice. I have a very nice situation here, but it is a beautiful place.
Now, your winery, is that in Healdsburg?
It is. I'm downtown Healdsburg.
Okay.
So I have a tasting room and a production facility in two separate spots, but they're 4 blocks apart. So it's very nice.
And this is the part where, I mean, I know we've had a lot of levity and I've enjoyed this hour, and it always flies by, but I don't want time to go by any further, because you are a winemaker with over 20 years experience, both on the food and wine pairings. So we talked a little bit about your depth, and I'm sure we only touched the surface for Halloween, but go ahead and talk a little bit about Selby Winery, and what type of events you offer and all of that good stuff.
Well, I have a winery. I have a tasting room. It's open 7 days a week, but I'm just a big advocate for the wine industry, and especially for Sonoma County and the town of Healdsburg. I have been doing this over 20 years. I started it with my dad, and the dream was to have a vineyard and a beautiful house in the middle of vines and hills, and he actually was in the process of doing that while I was learning the wine industry. What was I doing? I was working in a tasting room and in the cellar at a large winery, and literally he died shortly after deciding he was really going to take that big step of buying something. And he was a famous spine surgeon in Dallas. Most of what he was doing while he was alive was he was drinking our profits. He and his friends would come out here and they were drinking wine. And we had a wonderful few years together while I was learning the industry. But when he passed away, my family didn't want to and shouldn't have invested anything. So I just hung in there and learned the business by myself, and I still have no partners or investors. So wow. I'm proud of what I've accomplished, but I really have embraced this industry. I'm officially sort of an old timer, which I'm proud of. It's not an easy industry. So, but I venture into other things, and I do care a lot about food, wine, and beverages in general.
Well, hats off to you, Susie. And as a side note, I personally, am really happy to, from an intrinsic motivation, from a homie's perspective, is to tell those stories that you just shared. And you're a perfect example of, for many different reasons that you just highlighted. One being there is one school of thought that someone's going to work at their 9 to 5 and then retire and then live their life, right? And we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And on the other side, you take a leap, and on the surface, it doesn't sound like, is this the right time? Is there ever a right time to do it? And you stuck through it, and over 20 years, you're still here to talk about it, and you still have that high energy, and so you are definitely a success story.
Well, thank you. That truly means a lot to me, and I really look forward to seeing you out here someday. You should honestly take advantage of this offer. It's a fun place.
You know what? I have many miles that I have to. There's a saying that if you die or go to hell, there's a layover in Atlanta.
Yes.
And the good thing about the city is, and I'm sorry, the acronym for Delta is doesn't ever leave the airport. So I might have to take another airline to get out there, but I have many miles is what I'm saying. So we should have a podcast on the road, and if not the podcast, it sounds like a wonderful experience. And we talked about Selby Land is what I'm calling it instead of Healdsburg. But for those that aren't calling it Selby Land, what is the website that people can find more information so they can actually book events at your location?
Oh, it's selbywinery.com. Very simple.
Okay.
If you should go to Selby Winery or Susie Selby, there I am. And this was a very fun break. We're in the middle of harvest. All the tanks are full. Trucks are coming in. You know, I'm still the backup forklift driver, which is fine. So I had this hour to not be on the forklift, which is sort of exciting, and of course, getting ready to mix some of those cocktails.
Yes, indeed.
I'll share it with my staff. I know.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll email you some photos of these cocktails, and if you would like, I will email you some recipes as well.
Oh, you know what? That would be great. And I'm wondering on your site because I didn't see it. Are they listed there as well? I'm sure. All the guys that are listening that are not going to make vodka in high C this season, we're going to need all the help we can get.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do is add the party tips and the cocktails, including the frozen eyeball ice cubes and the little babies in the baby drinks. So all of those fabulous things. Oh, and of course, not to mention the rats and the potato chips. I'm going to I'll take a photo. I'll have to stage that one coming up. So yes, I'm going to what?
Well, I want to get your take because I was going to do some really nice photo. I mean, you have a really nice photo of you on your site, and I was going to crop it and make a nice thumbnail for YouTube. And I'm wondering, should I do one of those with the chips example that you just gave? And would that be clickbait, or do you want to be associated with that type of image?
You're right. Let's go with the vineyard shot. I vote vineyard.
Right. We love it.
Yeah, we'll go vineyard.
There we go. Well, I hate to say it. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, and I hate when this happens, but the hour is up, and it was a pleasure. And we have the site. Is there any other information? I know we talked about Halloween, and I'm sure you guys are open every season, and wine countries there's always a good time of year. But is there another for people that want to plan in advance and make plans for the fall or the spring coming up, or is there another event that you guys are really looking forward to right now?
We have a lot of different events that take place. I personally, especially if it were my first time in one country, I would want to come during harvest. But we have some really fun activities, and when I say we, I'm talking about the Sonoma County wine industry. We have a big event called Barrel Tasting Weekend in March. There's something called Winter Wineland, where, yes, we have an abominable snowman you can take photos with because, of course, the snowman also scares tourists, so all sorts of fun at Selby. And then there are wineries that, believe me, appeal to a more sophisticated audience that doesn't want to hang around with a scary, abominable snowman. Maybe we'll do a clown this year just to shake it up. But there are all sorts of events, and we post them on the website. But I definitely will send you some of these cocktail shots and recipes if you'd like me to, and I'll put it on my website as well.
Awesome.
So,
and for those that know me and that have gone to my parties, I know people from all walks of life. So you might find me at the barrel tasting or the others where I have to put my pinky up while I'm drinking. So right. I think I can. I can dress up when I need to, and those listening, I mean, whatever floats your boat. I think that Selby Winery is a destination that you have to consider. Put it on your bucket list sooner than later. And that barrel tasting sounds really fun because it's around March Madness.
I know, exactly. Yeah, March Madness, that's a big one.
Yeah.
So,
wow, you're a sports person too, so Susie really rocks.
I watch way too much sports. Seriously, it's almost a problem. I just love it. It's fun.
Nice.
So
very nice.
Well, thank you again, and thank you for your time. And it was a fun hour. And I will send you some photos.
Yes. And so you have just been in tune to another episode of Intrinsic Motivation from a Homie's Perspective. This is Hamza. Shout out to David that couldn't make it today. You missed a good one. And Susie Shelby, it was a pleasure speaking. Let's stay in touch for sure.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.